Welcome back to my channel. I'm Katie from A Natter About Books, and today I wanted to chat to you about all of the audiobooks that I have been listening to over the past few months. This is slightly different. Normally I have the physical copies to hold up next to me. I'm just going to put pictures on the screen because obviously these are all audiobooks. And I just wanted to tell you about my thoughts, whether or not I would recommend them, and the types of different audiobooks that I really enjoy versus the ones that I don't tend to get on with very much, I think it's fair to say. Before I start showing you them, I just wanted to talk about why I really enjoy audiobooks. So sometimes when you are ridiculously busy, as I'm sure you all know, there are instances where you can't just sit and read for 2 hours as much as you'd love to. You just haven't got time, you need to cook food, you need to go out for a walk for the dog, all different things. And for those of you that have kids, I'm sure that you have already discovered your love of audiobooks. I absolutely adore them. I think that they are the best thing for if you need to try and get your reading up a little bit within the month, or there is a book that you know that you really want to get round to reading and you just don't physically have the time to sit down with a book. You can actually listen to audiobooks when you're, when you're cooking food, when you're walking the dog, when you're doing all sorts. You have the option to just switch it on in the background, and because you're doing quite laborious things with your hands but you're not necessarily using your brain too much, you can actually then focus it on an audiobook. And I'm sure that I'm preaching to the choir here. Everyone knows how great audiobooks are, but that's just a couple of the reasons that I really love them. And I think that without that, I wouldn't get through as many books as I do. So I'm just a strong advocate and I have strong feelings about audiobooks, okay? You'll have to excuse any lighting that's coming up from this direction because I do have my phone in front of me, because this is how I tend to listen to them. So one of the audiobooks that I absolutely adored was The Trauma Cleaner by Sarah Krasnostini. This one I believe Simon Savage was talking about a year or so ago, and how he absolutely adored it. I can only agree and mirror his words on this one. I think that this is absolutely fantastic. It's a non-fiction that follows the life of a woman called Sandra Pankhurst, who is self-employed and runs her own business cleaning up trauma sites. So if there is a suicide, a murder, someone's died in their home, even if someone has gone through a traumatic life event and they physically cannot clean their house, they're a hoarder, Sandra is called in with a team of her employees who go in and clean the entire house from top to bottom. But alongside that, she actually coaches these people, especially those that are, say, hoarders that have gone through traumatic events. She coaches them and talks to them about how they have found themselves in this position and how they can get themselves out of it by just making small improvements day to day. So that I just absolutely adored. I would strongly recommend, if you haven't picked that up, definitely listen to it if you have the option to on a library app. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I'm sure that reading the thing is also just as good, but I listened to it and I just thought that it was so moving. You hear a lot about Sandra's own life and her experiences in the past, and it was just phenomenal. I really enjoyed it, so I would definitely recommend, if you haven't already heard it or read it, to pick that one up. Next, we have Moral Disorder by Margaret Atwood. I had never read a short story collection by Margaret Atwood before. I'd obviously read the classics like The Handmaid's Tale. I'd read the Penelopiad, unsure. But I read that and I really enjoyed it. And I thought it would be a little bit different to listen to this on audiobook. This is centered around one woman's life and the different people that come in and out of her life, and it varies from whether she is a young woman, whether she's a child, when she's older, and later on in her life. It focuses on all of the different elements that have summed her up to be the person that she is today, and it was just really interesting and very different from the two that I have read from Margaret Atwood before. So I did enjoy that. It probably wasn't my favourite audiobook of all time, but it's definitely one that I liked to listen to, and I thought that because it was so different, I quite enjoyed it. I also listened to The Girls by Emma Cline. This is one that I have had on my shelves for years and I've just never bothered to pick it up. I thought, it had a lot of hype around it. I'd heard great things around it. It was around a cult-ish like thing where young girls were kind of drafted in to worship a man. And I thought it sounded interesting, but I was never really inclined to pick it up. Saw that my library had it available to reserve, so I put my name down for it. And actually, I really got on with the audiobook. I thought it was great, and it moved at quite a quick pace as well, which I'm sure, obviously, if you read it, it does the same thing. But this actually pushed me to listen to it. So this centres around a young woman who is pretty much fed up with her home life. I say woman, she's a child. I think she's about 13, 14 at the time. And she becomes obsessed with a young woman that she sees in the park that she would consider a hooligan. She sees her in a shop and steals things for her. And then because she's so obsessed with this young woman, she follows her and is kind of drafted in, like I said, to a cult. And she loves the way of life, but obviously things happen that she then ends up disagreeing with, and it flits back between the future after everything with the cult has happened, and she's in her mid-40s and she is retelling the story. I really got on with the audiobook, like I said, and I would recommend it if you haven't already read the book. I also really enjoyed the narrator of this because I listened to it at a quicker pace. I normally listen to it either at 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed. I find that the American narrators, it just goes so unbelievably quickly that I struggle with it a little bit. So I do tend to slow it down, but I thought this narrator was brilliant, and I could keep up with it really easily as well. That's a me thing, by the way. You don't have to listen to it at 2 times speed. I'm just a little bit ridiculous when it comes to listening to audiobooks. But yeah, most of the time my partner walks in and he asks how I can understand any of it because it's at 2 times speed, and just you get used to it. It's fine. Another one that I listened to is Nutshell by Ian McEwan. I've read a lot of Ian McEwan in the past, and I picked up Nutshell when it came out a couple of years ago, and I was really interested in the concept of it. So the narrator is actually a baby still inside the womb of his mother, and you hear all of the disastrous and horrible things that his mother and the man that she's having an affair with are planning for the fetus's father. And it's very strange because you're on the side of a fetus in in this novel, but I think it's so clever how it's pitched to the audience and how you become so enthralled by the narrative of a fetus, and the way that you kind of end up believing that it's a 40-something-year-old man, especially with the narration of this. It was narrated by Rory Kinnear, who you might have seen in things like Black Mirror. He was the Prime Minister. I won't say much more on that. And also in the Shakespeare live play, I think he was Hamlet and I think he was Iago in Othello. So yeah, I really like Rory Kinnear, which was the main reason that I was compelled to listen to this rather than read it, because this is one that I do actually have on my shelves. But I was really excited to listen to the narration of this, and because Rory comes across in such a prim and proper manner, you hear the eloquence of a fetus. It's very strange, it's quite surreal, but by the end of it you kind of just get used to it, and it's really enjoyable. And so I would strongly recommend that one. I did really enjoy it. Another audiobook that I listened to is It's About Bloody Time, by Emma Barnett. This one is obviously a non-fiction. It's focused all around women and how they lack the confidence to talk about menstruation, or those that have spoken out about menstruation and try and bring it more into the public eye, give young girls the confidence to start talking about their period and the time of the month and everything that comes along with it, because so many people are unaware. Obviously more men specifically are unaware of what women go through every month, and a lot of it is focused around how there is a big joke and a stigma around periods. And I just thought that this was such an interesting listen in this instance, but would be an interesting read as well. There are a few experiences here that will probably make you squirm a little bit, but I think it's really important that those were included, and I think that it's really important that we're as open and honest about this kind of stuff as much as possible, and I think that's exactly what Emma does. Emma also narrates this herself, so it's a really fascinating insight. She actually also has endometriosis, which causes horrific period pain, so hearing her experiences of that and knowing people that have also gone through that and have that is something that is so interesting to me to find out more about. I think for everyone else who has not read it yet, I definitely think that this is an important read, and I don't think it was that long either, so it's very accessible as well. I would strongly recommend this. An audiobook that I absolutely loved was Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This one has obviously been making its rounds quite a lot. Everyone knows what Queenie is and most people have read it, but I just want to be a bit of an advocate for the audiobook because I thought it was very good. The narration of Queenie really brought her character to life for me, and I thought that it came across so well. The accents that portrayed the different members of her family. So say her aunt, she had a very strong accent that mirrored the culture that she was surrounded by, and I just thought that it brought you so much more into the world. So Queenie is about a young woman whose partner asks to essentially go on a break. She goes through lots of different thoughts and feelings around this. It kind of has a knock-on effect of every single aspect of her life. I just thought that it was a really nice read, and I really enjoyed Queenie, the main character, and her sort of sexual liberation that she discovers throughout the novel as well, and how she found that impacted her so dramatically. So I would strongly recommend that. I thought that it was brilliant, and like I said, the narration of this was phenomenal. So one of my favourite audiobooks. Another audiobook that I really enjoyed is It's Not Okay to Feel Blue and Other Lies. This is written by so many different people. There are short stories, retellings of things that have happened to people when they were depressed, when they had high levels of anxiety, when they went through trauma. This varies between people like Amelia Clark to YouTubers like Hannah Witten. You get to hear insights into all of these different people's lives and how depression has really impacted them, and how their mental health has made such a dent in their lives. But it's also a celebration of the fact that it is okay to feel this way. So I really enjoyed this, and listening to it on audiobook, some of the accounts were narrated by the individuals that had wrote them, so you get to hear the voices of the people that have actually experienced these things, which I really did enjoy listening to them, and it speaks to you on another level hearing it from the actual people that have experienced these things. So it also helps you feel like you are not alone, and if you ever do experience anything to do with mental health, if you have depression or anxiety, helping you to cope with them, and offering you a little bit of an insight into how they've dealt with it too. I love listening to it on audiobook as well, so I would definitely recommend that one. And I think those are all of the audiobooks that I would strongly recommend. There are a few that I didn't mention that I didn't have the best experience with. Just to name a couple, we've got Motherhood by Sheila Heti. I didn't really enjoy how that came across, and I think that I would have much preferred actually reading the physical version of it. Crudo by Olivia Lang I also listened to on audiobook, and I did not understand why people enjoyed it so much. It might just be a taste thing. I might have enjoyed it much more if I read it in physical copy. I have it, so I might try it again sometime this year, but I really did not get on with that one. I just thought it was a little bit pretentious. I didn't like it. And I know that there are so many people that love it, so don't come for me, but I just didn't really get on with it, and I think it's just a taste thing really. I don't necessarily think that it might be because I listened to it on audiobook, but I think it certainly didn't help. So yeah, that isn't one that I particularly enjoyed. And also The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner was another one that I didn't particularly get on with. Again, I spoke about this in my January wrap-up. I don't know whether it was because of the actual story itself or whether it was the narrative. I'm just not sure about why I didn't like that one too much, but it was one that I kind of was slogging to get through to the end of. So that isn't one that I probably will pick up again, but yeah. So those are my audiobook recommendations, and those that I didn't particularly enjoy that I have listened to over the past few months. Most of them were available on my library app. Definitely encourage you to have a look, see if your local library offers something similar. Because that has saved me during lockdown. I don't know about anyone else, but I found that having the audiobooks that you can just reserve and then you get available to you as soon as the last person's finished it, I just think it's so accessible, especially at the moment where you can't go into a library and borrow the physical books. Definitely recommend having a look at that. Obviously you've got your audio subscription services like Audible, for example, that you can sign up to as well, and I think you can get a couple of books free with that. So yeah, I would take advantage of that, definitely. We have no reason not to. So yes, if you want to see me do another one of these in a month or so's time when I've listened to a few more, then just let me know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And I would love to hear any audiobook recommendations that you have in the comments below. Any books that I've mentioned today, I will leave a link to in the description, and I shall see you all very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.